Just before the engine goes in, I have to replace a few things. So first of all, I got to replace the valve cover gaskets. I'm going to replace those. That one is done. New one's getting put on. After that, we'll be replacing the water pump gasket and exhaust manifold gaskets. I'm going to hope that none of the bolts are rusted. After these gaskets are done, we're replacing one crucial component, which I recommend replacing at this point, is a rear main seal. I'm going to be replacing that as well. To replace the gasket right behind this cover, you got to remove the pulley. To take the pulley off, you're going to need this puller. I got this particular puller here. It will remove Ford and Mopar pulleys for the harmonic balancer for you. And all you have to do is tighten it up. Put your ratchet on. Your ratchet. See. And you can see the pulley slowly moving. Almost got it. There we go. I think it's out. So you get this plunger to go inside the crankshaft, like this, because it's hollow in there. It's designed for that kind of tool. And there you go, it balances out. Why I removed this is I want to replace this seal here. All this oil leak could be the cover, timing cover leaking, so I'm going to open all these bolts and get to the cover too. Get the cover out. So we got all these bolts out. This is all we need to remove. And to get to some of these bolts, you have to remove the tensioner here. It's only one bolt holding the tensioner together. So let's see if this comes off. Yeah, it does. I can see the timing components. Chain does not look stretched. Chain's good. The guides don't look cut. So guides are good. We're not going to actually, at this point, mess with the timing. Just add new seal here, and the front main seal, and then all new silicone gasket around here, and put the cover back in. We do have to clean this up, otherwise it's not gonna seal right. So this one does have gasket. We're gonna replace this one here. So I just took the seal out of here and I'm putting the new seal back in. To install it, you need this tool. It's like an entire set. You can do press bearings, press seals with it. You're just gonna sit it all the way around, make sure it's right, and hammer it. And you can see sitting flush all the way around. If there's a little area that's raised on some corner, you can push the seal, install it that way, and then hammer it down. So this should be flush like that. Look in the back of it, and you can see it's seated all the way. Now, if you hammer too much after the seal seats properly, then you are gonna damage the front. So don't go too crazy. Here's the timing cover. We got new gasket set for it, and I got new thermostat housing and the thermostat because it comes together. So here we go. So the new gasket under there. I got new O-rings on both sides for the water pump, and there's new O-ring gasket under here. I applied slight a bit silicone all around the housing case, bolted all down, and I decided to paint. A little bit of nail polish doesn't hurt anything, right? Anyway, we're just gonna install the pulley, and what happened is when I was trying to install the exhaust manifold, the older bolt had snapped inside the cylinder head. To take that out, I ended up welding first this much lobe on top of the old stud, and then I welded this bolt onto it. And then by the time I was ready to take it out, the heat itself from the welding has loosened the threads pretty well, and then I was able to turn it all around, loosen it, take it out. Now, one thing doesn't hurt the aluminum because this is aluminum head. So you can weld directly onto the stud and the weld will not stick to aluminum head. you could see they were sticking to the bolt only. So that worked out great for me. It is nightmare to break these bolts in here. I have a bolt extractor kit, but it requires drilling. That takes forever. This took me about 5-10 minutes. I was lucky enough to do that. The rear main seal got replaced. I have the old one out. I had to break it to take it out. The rear main seal was showing sign of leak, so I'm glad we replaced it. There's a new one in. I also took out the flywheel from the original motor that came out of the car, transferred it onto the replacement motor, because you never know. The last thing you want to do is get the motor in and nothing lines up. So, all right, next thing is let's get the motor ready to be in the car. I got new spark plugs in there, new valve cover gaskets in there, and you can see the gaskets are easy. You open 10mm bolts and put new gaskets back in there. New water pump is on. So here it comes with new housing. You see that little notch cut off right here on the housing itself? That is for this little pin right here. So you're gonna guide that in place like that. And you'll also notice the gasket notch will line up with this, while this is lining up with that socket right there. The direction of the thermostat housing is like this. We can see on the old engine. And let's tighten it down by hand, make sure it's all torqued. These are 8mm bolts, so you don't need to put something that doesn't fit. Okay, so let's install the crank pulley. You see the pin right there? We're gonna cotter pin, line it up with this guy, spin it until it lines. Perfect. Push the pulley on, and you should have just enough room to tighten a few threads. The rest, you gotta hand tighten. Hand tighten it. Do not put a torque gun to it, because you could strip the threads. There we go. So if you hand tighten it, you will see the clearance behind here. It's all seated all the way by the seal. At the end, once it seats properly, torque it with the torque wrench. So this is complete. Let's put this motor in the car. Oh yes, I forgot. I have to add new oil pan gasket. So this is how your oil pan gasket looks. So just drop the engine in, and engine mounts slide right in. What you need to do is, when you slide these two mounts in, push the engine back and lift the transmission up. It actually lines up perfectly without you touching anything. My transmission lined up. There were two bolts on top. I opened them from up here, tighten them down. Next thing you need to do is run your fuel injector plugs and ignition coils are separate. Run this cable to the oil pressure sending unit. You have a ground down here, connect that. And then same way, there's a ground down here, connect that. You have a cam sensor and a crank sensor, connect those. Same this side, connect all your injectors and leave the coils loose. Engine coolant temp sensor right here plugged in, and rest of the harness that is up here we're not going to touch until we start mounting rest of the parts. I got the intake manifold ready. Before you drop the intake manifold, inspect and make sure your crank knock sensors are plugged in and there's nothing in the way for the knock sensors, and you have to make sure your ground strap is connected. This ground strap is a little bit damaged, not in good shape, but that's all I have. I don't have new ground straps for this. So to drop the intake manifold, get new gaskets on, and if you remember, these bolts don't come out, so you're just gonna grab and guide this guy in. You have to have both hands because this thing is in the way and then the dipstick is in the way. Almost every time I'll have to move this dipstick, and then you can bolt it back up here. Without moving that, you can't really get the intake manifold mounted. So these are 10mm, they line right up. Since you have the gasket all out. After you tighten the intake manifold, we're gonna connect some plugs in here. So this is the gray plug for the map sensor. Plug that in, push the lock pin down right here, and make sure your map sensor is not damaged. Next, I'm just gonna keep dropping coils And what happens is you just gotta put new plugs, put a coil in, guide it into this stud, and put your bolt in. Install all your coils. After you got all your coils set and plugged, we're gonna plug more plugs in here. This gray plug is your thermal body sensor. This right here is your idle control valve. There you go. This will be air temperature sensor right here. And the dipstick gets mounted right here. Okay. Now let's set up the entire front accessories here. I'm gonna mount the power steering pump, alternator, and AC compressor. Get your AC compressor and line it up like this. Now if this part is getting stuck, you need to push this bushing out so it can slide in easy. Let's guide the bolt here. So the longest ones are the front here. So the longest bolts go here, fat and shorty here, another fat and shorty right there. Next, I'm gonna install the alternator. Same way, slide it on. And we have again the longest bolt that goes in the front. Like that. When you connect the AC lines, you're gonna connect the bottom one first, because the bottom AC line has a bolt that is in the way. Sorry, you cannot get to that bolt if you install the top one like this. Watch. So if you install the top one, you see it prevents you from getting to that bolt. So you're gonna install and tighten that one first, and then install this and tighten this one. So here we go. Once you're done, tighten both of these bolts. Next thing we need to do is connect some more plugs. And you will see this plug here. That's for your AC switch. Next plug you'll see is for your AC clutch. And lock it in place. Next wiring harness is on this side, which is probably dropped already. Yes. So we're gonna need to get to this harness exactly. Here you go. This is for your alternator. And we're gonna need to connect this plug behind the alternator. There is the alternator rectifier plug. And this right here is the power, 12 volts going to your alternator. After we connect the power steering pump, connect your alternator, we have two grounds here by the ECU. The stud holds the main ground, and then on top of the stud you tighten the other ECU ground with the fastener. Make sure these are connected. Then you have this harness coming out. You're going to connect that here. If you disconnected that, that's come out of the ECU harness as well. Connect that one there, which I did, so I'm connecting those. Next, I'm going to set the battery box down and get the battery box connected. This is the solenoid we need to connect as well. Right now, I think I have my fuel lines left, so all you have to do is push it on and lock it there. Once you hear that, and push it on. So fuel lines are on, solenoid's connected. We gotta run a few vacuum lines here. So if you remember, we disconnected the vacuum going to the booster. That connects right there. It's already connected here. Perfect. And then we have, here's the belt rotation. You're gonna go over the AC, water pump, alternator, power steering, below, crankshaft, over the idler, and under the tensioner. What I did was I put all the rotation except the water pump. I opened the tensioner up, slid the water pump over, worked for me. So as you can see, the entire front is mounted. 3 bolts here. Got another 3 bolts here. 2 bolts holding your hood closed. 1 for the front grille support. There's one that needs to go here. There's one that needs to go here. Now, there is a main harness right here. Make sure you plug that one. Otherwise, none of the lights will work. So basically the engine is all back together except the radiator and radiator fan. Sorry, except the radiator fan. I didn't connect that because I have to install torque converter bolts. For that, I have to turn the crankshaft, and to do that, we will need to get access to the front. So if I install my fan, I will not get access to the crank bolt. And the transfer case, connect my oxygen sensors, connect my exhaust down there, and then fire this thing up.